Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. My name is Chuck Moore. With me, as always, are Jeff Arbuckle and Jason Oliver. Say hello, fellers.
Hello, fellers. How's it going, everybody?
You're a monster.
We also have the gingerbread man here.
We have the gingerbread man, and for a very specific reason, because this week our recommendation comes to us from my two children, Brinley and Braden, and it is Shrek 2. They originally requested that we cover all the films. I asked them which was the best. They said 2. They don't like 3, actually. But we've all, I think, watched both Shrek and Shrek 2 for more context, right? Is that accurate? I believe it's accurate. We all watched both of them?
Yes, I did.
I watched both.
I'm trying to remember if I've seen Shrek the Third or not. I cannot, for the life of me, remember if I've seen the third one.
My children
definitely
have not.
Don't need to see it.
There are like 5 of them, right? Because there's Shrek the Third, there's Shrek Forever, and then there's the Puss in Boots movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the Puss in Boots movie isn't really a Shrek movie necessarily.
What's a Puss in Boots?
It's a Shrek universe. I mean, there's no Shrek in it. It's
right.
just Puss in Boots, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Puss in Boots movie.
Oh, I thought you said, what's a Puss in Boots movie? I don't have time to explain that.
But oh, boy. We're starting with a bang.
Yeah. I think that we should
Jeff. Dead. Jeff's dead.
I will say I had some of these genuine laughs during the Shrek movies. I think we should start by talking about the impetus of Shrek. So in a little bit of the first movie, there was a guy, I think his name is William. No, that's not him. I think it's Andrew Adamson. He worked for Disney, I believe. If I get that name wrong.
I think that sounds right. Yes, he was the director.
Yeah, I think he worked at Disney and was, I think, unceremoniously let go. So this film was kind of created as a hate letter to Disney, according to my son.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah, so because it does kind of go against a lot and make fun of a lot of the Disney, the Disney tropes or what have you.
It's also just a little bit irreverent, right? Mm-hmm. It's pushing envelopes that Disney wouldn't really go. Disney wouldn't go certain places, but this movie goes.
I even feel like, to a certain extent, when did? All right, we're really off to a great start, not doing our homework and everything. Hey, kids, when you grow up, you don't have to do your homework. That's what we're going to be teaching them.
No, don't say that, because I have a constant battle at home about homework. And my kids
but they're kids.
Well, if you don't do your homework, you will have hundreds of podcast listeners. Hundreds.
That's true.
Who have all checked out by now.
No, one of the things that I was trying to say, and I'm trying to remember, because I even think, to a certain extent, the character of Donkey is a direct jab at the often over the top, often stereotypical talking animal that Disney often had. And I think that's almost more on purpose than anything. I mean, even at one point, Donkey in this movie says there's only room for one annoying talking sidekick. And it's it's all a joke, and it is awfully irreverent, and I like it for that.
Yes, and it was going to be more irreverent, I think, because this was originally cast and written with Chris Farley as the star.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had recorded. There's some recordings out there you can listen to. It's vastly different, vastly different in tone than what we get with Mike Myers. But unfortunately, Chris Farley passed either after he completed or shortly before he would have completed all the dialogue for this film, somewhere around that time. And Mike Myers was originally the second choice, said he would step in to become Shrek, but he didn't want to infringe upon the Farley version of Shrek. So there were major rewrites to kind of erase the tone that Farley would have had and introduce the tone that Mike Myers has instead. Interestingly enough, all of the dialogue was almost recorded again by Mike Myers before he said, you know what? I should do this in a Scottish accent.
Right.
And they started over again, which go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, it's like there's a lot to this story that you can look at, and Jason's already shaking his head, but there's a lot to the story that you can look at and you can say, oh, that's overthinking it, or, oh, maybe they shouldn't remove all of that Chris Farley stuff or whatever, because it's like, at what point are you kind of trampling a little bit on the memory of the original guy who tragically passed away before the movie could be completed or released or whatever? But at the same time, I think all the changes were for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things are at play here. Mike Myers didn't want to, like I said, infringe on the Farley version. And the people who made this movie, the first Shrek, couldn't continue on without him. Like, they didn't want to continue making this film when Chris wasn't going to be there to celebrate its completion.
Right.
So I think it's all in good faith. Great. Yeah. Like you're saying, you could read a lot into it. I think personally, it's all in good faith.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, when you look at it on paper, it's like, oh, they did that, and then they swapped that and they erased all of the stuff that had been done by somebody who, and it's like, okay. But also the redo to do the Scottish accent actually has a sweet ending to it too, because it was based on how his mother would tell him stories at bedtime or something, or is it his grandmother?
I think it's his grandmother, but I'm not positive. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, he's do your homework, kids, or you'll end up like us, and that's not great. No, but there's a sweetness to that because it's a love letter to how he heard stories like this, and how they were told to him, and I think that all works out for the best, and I think it certainly helps build a character that is absolutely, completely, and totally distinctive of any other of any character that Disney has put out in the same time frame.
Yeah, because the hero, right, is an ogre. He's the antithesis of any Disney hero. He's the monster that in Disney movies you always wanted to avoid, right?
Right.
But Shrek puts that other spin on them, that they're just a misunderstood creature, right?
Well, it's more a subversion, I think, of the Disney princess trope.
Yep.
Right?
Because the princess is ugly too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Half the time.
Quote unquote ugly.
I honestly, I could take Mike Myers, take him or leave him in this. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Watching these two movies again, he's very much like sure, he's in almost every scene, but he's very dialed down, which I think is good.
He's the straight man of all of this. Everything's happening to him.
Right. Yeah. But it's a good performance, but it doesn't make the movie for me. Right?
Oh no. I mean,
all that stuff that Chuck is already talking about the subversion of the Disney tropes of what I love most of all, right, is Disney has made its hay on animated features based on public domain fairy tales, right? And all of that kind of came home to roost in this movie because all of those fairy tales are public domain. As long as you don't make it exactly the same, you can go to town and you can take so many jabs at Disney while you do it without it actually being directly at Disney, right?
Technically, you could with some of the parody ability. So, I mean, you can make it pretty close.
You can make it close, but we got to be careful that you're not selling your product on that because then there's going to be lawsuits up the wazoo. And Disney was not happy about this movie. And I guess the Lord Farquaad character was also based on Michael Eisner, from what I read.
That's
which
right.
is hilarious.
Yeah.
all of that stuff really is what I love about this movie. Plus, not only is it subverting the Disney animated film, but it's subverting fairy tales, right?
Yeah.
And it's creating its own universe of it's almost tangent universe of fairy tales. You have Grimm fairy tales, you have Disney fairy tales, you have all these same stories that are built on the same morals, the same characters, and this has kind of created its own version of all of that, and I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, when you said when you said the Disney made its hay on that stuff, did they spin it into gold?
Yes, they made straw houses out of it, actually.
Oh, okay. And this movie
and
came
DreamWorks
blew them
huffed
over.
and puffed and blew their straw houses down.
I guess those straw houses are pretty damn strong, actually. But
it should not be overlooked. A couple of notes, the stuff that we had talked about while we were watching it. First and foremost, both of these movies do not look 20 and 17 years old apiece. Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 look like they came out yesterday.
They look great.
Yeah, they are very sharp, very colorful. Everything is just super like whatever people DreamWorks hired, they almost out Pixar in almost every way. And then the first Shrek movie won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature in one of the very first years that they ever gave that out. And the second one, the one that we're really going to dig into here today, was the highest grossing movie of 2004 by far across the world.
Interesting. Yeah. That's one thing I did not notice. Yeah, and I think the first one also competed for the Palm, if I remember what I read. Because it premiered in Cannes.
I think this was only is this right? Was it only the second DreamWorks animation film?
I think
they were in their infancy, for sure.
I think the first was Prince of Egypt, and that was hand-drawn, if I remember correctly. So this would have also been the first DreamWorks computer animated.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so let's talk, because we're going to talk most about Shrek 2. We should quickly go through what happens in Shrek, just to kind of set the stage. We have Lord Farquaad, great name. The closest you'll hear us to swear in this episode, besides ass, probably. Speaking.
Oh yeah, they say that a lot. Yeah, and that's fantastic because it's like, well, it is what it is. I mean,
I've got to save my own ass.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. But yeah, Lord Farquaad is trying to gather up all the fairy tale creatures and get them out of the kingdom. And he ends up putting them all on Shrek's land.
He lives in a swamp. Yep.
A swamp? I almost said swamp too.
It's the Shrek swamp.
Yeah. And Shrek is like, no, this can't stand. I need to get you guys out of here. This is my swamp. He meets Donkey, of course, who his owner had tried to sell him or give him to Lord Farquaad's people because he's a talking donkey, which would make him a fairy tale character. And in the process of that, Tinkerbell throws dust on him while he's not talking, and he starts flying, which kind of ruins his shtick of not being a talk. Yeah. And then he's like, I can fly. And then he's like, he can talk. But Shrek kind of comes in and saves all of those characters in a manner.
One moment here. Chuck, can you retell the story in all of the characters' voices, please?
I wish I could.
Because I'm seeing legitimate joy down in the Muffin Man's window for Jason there when you were doing Donkey's voice.
Do you know the Muffin? Hey, Shrek, I can fly. It's hard to do an Eddie Murphy impression or a Mike Myers.
Really?
I guess maybe not.
I don't know. You've done it.
You've done it. Yeah, it seemed pretty easy to me.
But Shrek is like, he stops all this madness basically. But what ends up happening is all of the fairy tale characters end up in the swamp, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to go to Lord Farquaad and tell him he's got to get rid of him." Well, Farquaad is at this point having a competition to find a hero to go save his chosen princess, who's Princess Fiona.
Go send somebody else off to their death.
Yes. And that scene is hilarious. I don't want to go too far into it because we're talking about Shrek 2, but the wrestling in the ring and the tagging and all that stuff is just really funny, I think. But Shrek wins, and Lord Farquaad's like, oh, I have an idea. Instead of killing the ogre, we'll send him to get the princess. And in return, Shrek said, well, if you get all these people off my land for doing it, we have a deal. And he does. He goes and saves Princess Fiona. In the midst of bringing Fiona back to Lord Farquaad, they kind of fall in love, right? And she ends up saying something that Shrek misinterprets. She's mad at her.
She's talking to Donkey because she has a curse where every day at sundown she turns into an ogre.
Yes, and she doesn't want anyone to know, not even Shrek. But Shrek overhears the bad part of it, which is her talking about herself, saying nobody wants to fall in love with an ugly monster, and Shrek, of course, thinks she's talking about him. So he gives her over to Farquaad, basically, and then decides, well, this can't happen. For whatever reason, he decides, no, I think Donkey talks him into it. He's like, no, Shrek, she loves you. And he goes and saves her from Lord Farquaad.
And I really hope you try to tackle Cameron Diaz at some point in this.
If I saw her, I would tackle her.
All right, kids, close your ears and leave the room.
But no, in all seriousness, Shrek and Fiona live happily ever after. That is the end of Shrek 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they break the curse, and it ends up the curse of true love, or the kiss of true love, turned her into an ogre for all time, not a human, right?
Yes, right. Thank you. Important note.
So, and that's a really beautiful message, honestly. And
Donkey falls in love with the dragon that was protecting.
Oh man!
And the dragon eats Lord Farquaad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
literally eats him.
That dragon is adorable.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeff felt bad for the dragon in that movie.
I did because when they left and then of course it was chained, it was stuck, and I felt bad. Anyway.
Yes, I agree.
Well, things turned out happily ever after for the dragon. We find out too.
Exactly, and it gets even happier, if not weird, in one of my favorite lines from the second one.
Yeah.
In which I will then do my Eddie Murphy impersonation.
I can't wait.
Yes, I want to.
I will not even try to attempt one.
All right, so there's Shrek 1. We've kind of covered at least the basis of what happened there. And now we come to 2004's Shrek 2, sequel to Shrek. At the beginning of this film, Shrek and Fiona are on their honeymoon. And we didn't talk a lot about this, but we will now, I think. In the beginning of Shrek, they played Smash Mouth, a horrible version of, I don't even know if that's their song.
Yeah,
maybe it is their song.
No, that's their song.
Yeah. That's their hit, yeah.
They also cover I'm a Believer. The
which
Neil Diamond / Monkey song. Yeah.
That was a dagger to my heart.
Yeah, it's rough. That's rough cover.
That whole movie is kind of a rough cover musically.
Yeah.
But we start this one with Counting Crows,
which is A1. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a much better musical choice to start this. It makes sense because
they're a lot better band.
And it's a thematically sweet song as well.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was an Oscar-nominated song on top of that. By the way, I don't know if I've ever told you guys.
Did this lose to? Sorry, because this didn't win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, but
Incredibles.
Oh, that's a hell of a movie. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
guys did some homework.
But back off on that language there, bub.
It's fine. Well, I guess I don't know what other kids are listening.
I don't even see. I don't even register it. Sorry, kids.
No, but I was gonna say is I've actually seen Counting Crows in concert. They
put $1 in the swear jar.
There you go. They opened for the Rolling Stones in one of the time on the Voodoo Lounge tour. And I got to hear them when they were like.
I still love the album August and everything after.
Yep, that was what they were mostly playing that when they were.
I like the album after that actually even better.
I know you do. I remember us
it's a good song or a good album. Yep.
Yeah, they're both good.
Covering the Satellites, I think, was the second album. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is. So Shrek and Fiona are on their honeymoon. They come home and Donkey is living at their place, waiting for them.
He's really kind of squatting.
Yeah, he's squatting. He's squatting, and he's. I don't want to say unwelcome, because Shrek and Fiona both love Donkey, right?
Right.
But he's unwelcome. He shouldn't be there. They're on their honeymoon. They're coming home to do honeymoonish after things, right? They're about to settle into their life. Maybe talk about having kids here, but that all gets thrown into the wind because Fiona's parents have sent a letter to have her come back home to far, far, far away.
Right.
Which
really
is
important on the trip that
yes.
that we understand that it's far, far, far away.
But Shrek doesn't want to go. He's like, they won't accept me. This isn't a good idea. I've been in these situations before. Just no. Next scene.
This is the kid. This is the kid's version of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to bring that up at the actual dinner scene,
right.
But yeah, 100%, like the whole movie. And I think I read this somewhere. It's loosely based on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Like the actual story was written with that in mind.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Which is also, oddly enough, we talked a few weeks ago when we talked about Beast of War being a submarine movie, and I said, oh, like Star Trek 2. And then Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is, oh, like Star Trek 6.
What were you going to say, Jason? I think you started to talk there.
They're in the opening montage, accidentally in love montage of honeymoon things. There's a really funny thing that I love when the mermaid gets washed up onto the beach on top of Shrek, and I think he throws her back into the ocean.
Fiona does.
No, Fiona does. Drags her off and then whips her.
Drags her off and whips her into the ocean, and she's eaten by sharks.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is aces.
Yes.
and you never see her face, but you can just tell from red hair.
It's the Little Mermaid with the red hair. Yep, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's
they also had the Spider-Man kiss in there where he's covered in mud. This movie, both of these movies, and this one in particular, the jokes come so fast. The references come so fast. You'd have to watch it a lot to catch them. And I can't tell you how many times, because I was taking notes on one thing that was happening. He's like, Dad, you got to look up. There's, you got to catch this one. You got to see this one. I'm like, this is too much. I'm trying to take notes here.
But didn't you do that to Braden when you showed him like Airplane or Naked Gun or something like that? It's like
absolutely. Or specifically when we watched The Usual Suspects. If he was asking me questions, I'm like, you got to stop. You can't miss this part. You got to watch this. And I'm like, all the things you're asking me will make sense in the end. But that's a totally different animal, The Usual Suspects.
Right.
That movie you need to pay attention to or you won't enjoy it in the end.
Well, Shrek 3 is basically The Usual Suspects for kids.
Yes. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I have no idea what Shrek 3 is about, by the way. Just
the greatest trick that Shrek ever played was having a kid.
The greatest Shrek the Shrek ever Shreked.
Sure. Was 3.
Yeah, right.
They also had the farts in the jacuzzi, which I'm betting made Jeff laugh.
I loved it. I freaking loved it.
Yeah. So all that's funny.
It's also kind of sweet too, right? Like,
yeah,
because it's like he lets one slip and he's like, oh, and kind of embarrassed, because they're still kind of, new to each other. But yeah, she just rips him off too. It's just fine. It's great.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if this is a real thing, but I feel like if you can fart around somebody else, you're the most comfortable you can be.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kids, find somebody that you can fart around.
Yes.
And, then just take that friendship from there, man.
And then fall accidentally in love.
And then it's really a bunch of Counting Crows instead of Smash Mouth.
It's just farting. If you can fart in a hot tub, you're golden. Yeah.
And if you can avoid Jennifer Saunders, you're probably in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Shrek 2. Fun talk,
All
gentlemen.
right, everybody. So next week, we're going to Shrek the Third. No.
But we have so the next scene after Shrek is very obstinate. He's not going. Of course, he's on the onion carriage because ogres have layers. Ogres have layers.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You're doing it.
I tried it. I tried it. And then, Donkey's in the back of the...
Oh, this kills me.
The onion carriage, like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And Shrek and Fiona are like, oh my God, shut up. This is like the height of making fun of the over-talking sidekick animal from the Disney movies.
When he starts doing the lip pops, that just kills me. Yeah.
Well, I can do it. I tried to do it. Couldn't do it. But yeah, entertain yourself, and he ends up doing lip pops, and he comes in between them when it's real quiet, and then Shrek asks, "Are we there yet?" And Fiona's like, "Yes."
Yeah, it just happens that they're there.
Which we have. I love the way this next scene is constructed. It's kind of like dueling or conjoined dialogue between. It's John Cleese, and I can't remember who the queen is.
Julie Andrews.
Yeah, Julie Andrews. Thank you. Are Fiona's parents. And Shrek and Fiona talking on the way up about how this isn't going to work. But go ahead.
It should be noted that Far, Far Away is essentially Hollywood, where they even have like Rodeo Drive and stuff like that. And
the sign is Far, Far, Far Away is a Hollywood sign.
Right. And like every bit, like there's, I can't remember what Burger King was called, but it cracked me up. It was like Burger Emperor or something.
I saw that too, and I can't remember.
I can't remember, but
my favorite was Fryer's Fat Boy.
Yes, Fryer's Fat Boy, like Fisher's Big Boy.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, this is a little shift from the first movie where they're making fun of Disney, with Farquaad's castle basically being a Disney resort castle, right? Now we're making fun of Hollywood in a way instead, taking a jab at the institution, I guess, of Hollywood. But yeah, we have this little interchange where Shrek's sentences are completed by Cleese's character. I'm going to have to pull up his name. I can't remember. King Harold. King Harold finishing his sentences, and then back and forth, and then they meet in the middle, and they're kind of like, I don't even know what to say. They're not, this isn't going to go well. You could tell it's not going to go well. And they go and have dinner.
Well, they expected to see two humans. They see two ogres.
Yes. Instead. Yes. And he's like, who are they? Because he even says, who are these people? and the queen is like, that's your daughter. And I think probably your husband. And then we have Donkey, who shows up at the dinner and is kind of the comic relief. But this dinner scene where they're getting angrier and angrier at each other and tearing turkeys in half and crushing lobsters and then cracking nuts in their hands. Right. It's kind of like these guys are showing their manhood to one another here about, one's wife and the other's daughter.
Also, that is framed perfectly. I had never noticed this before, but the eagle over Shrek's chair looks like it's about to pounce on him. So it just adds that extra tension because he's trapped at this point. Yeah. In a situation he does not want to be in.
Yes, he did not want to go there. It's going the way he anticipated. He takes it out on Fiona while also... Go ahead.
I like when they argue. It's either before or after dinner when they argue about how this is all going to go. And it might be before they go because Shrek doesn't want to go. He's reluctant. He's like, I don't really want to meet your parents. Yeah, like you said, this isn't going to go well. And she's defending them. And one of his retorts is, they locked you in a tower.
Right.
Yes.
which is kind of like a really great way to ground some realism in the fairy tale, right?
Right.
Yes. And then she says they did it for my own good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's super.
Yes. So after that dinner fiasco, we meet the true villain of this movie, the fairy godmother, who Fiona doesn't remember. For one reason or another, I think she's never met her, although she is involved in the original curse, right?
Yes, and also we should go back real quick to the very, very beginning before the Counting Crows montage with the honeymoon and the post-wedding stuff. Prince Charming arrives at the castle or at the tower that was previously protected by the dragon, only to find the wolf who had eaten the grandmother.
A gender confused wolf,
right?
As he called,
or as that was what I think that was
somebody says that
fairy godmother said that, I think. But anyway, she so he is. So we already know that somebody has already gone looking for Fiona.
Yes. So the whole thing, yeah. Because later we find out Prince Charming is fairy godmother's kid.
Yeah, but he is played by Rupert Everett, and that is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he plays a very wonderful, petulant child. Almost, I mean, that Prince Charming character is just a kid. You know,
right?
He acts like a kid. When he eats his little meal from Friar's Fat Boy, he's all like,
he's got the whole Burger King.
Yeah, he looks like an excited kid eating it. His favorite.
Well, he also got a battle axe as the toy in the kids' meal. So I was excited about that.
Yes, he did. But we're getting slightly ahead of ourselves because Fiona is talking to the fairy godmother, and the fairy godmother is offering to make her happy, to which she's like, well, I already am. I got married. And she's like, what? She didn't know that Shrek had rescued her from the castle, and then all of this had happened. So she's mad about it. And I don't know if somebody wants to go for a second. I got something in my throat. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So yeah, at this point, then she realizes that Fiona has married a. Well, not only that she's married Shrek, but she's also. Well, I mean, I guess it was nighttime anyway, but that, the curse has stuck essentially, ostensibly, that, she is now an ogre married to another ogre when she made the deal to have Fiona marry Prince Charming. And that's when we find out that also King Harold had made this deal behind the Queen's back.
Yes, because around the time that Shrek is reading Fiona's diary and seeing all the writing of her saying Prince Charming, Prince Charming, Prince Charming over and over again in her diary, she'd obviously been fed this story that someday Prince Charming would come find her and save her. But the fairy godmother at that same time takes the king, the drama king as he's called, which cracks me up, takes the drama king to Friar's Fat Boy because she's so furious she needs to eat her feelings.
She has to ruin her diet.
Yes, but she's constantly eating her feelings.
Right.
Is Kyle with them in this scene? Because I love Kyle.
Oh, Kyle. Yeah, Kyle is the driver of the flying carriage.
Kyle is like the fairy godmother Stedman, and it's awesome.
Yes. My kids, every time he was on screen, would yell, Kyle!
Yeah.
Kyle!
Well, it's right there on his shirt. I mean, I was doing it too. It's like, hey, look, there's Kyle.
I want a Kyle movie.
I want to find out what he did after the conclusion of this movie, because he's basically out of a job.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe him and Prince Charming had a thing.
Maybe it all lines up, man.
Yeah.
Yes. So Harold is reprimanded by the fairy godmother, King Harold, that is. And he needs to make this right somehow. He needs to find a way to get rid of Shrek, so Prince Charming can marry Fiona and seal that deal that was made.
Well, and the fairy godmother, by thrusting the toy battle axe, which is a real battle axe from the Friar's Fat Boys meal, basically insinuates that he should maybe just get rid of Shrek. Put 2 and 2 together with that weapon.
Yes, she hands it to him. She's like, I don't know, use your imagination.
Use your imagination.
Yeah. But instead, he goes to one of my favorite places in Shrek 2's the evil bad guy.
The poisoned apple.
It's called the poisoned apple, yes. Yeah. But it's basically an evil person's bar.
It's the cantina from Star Wars.
Yeah. We have, I wanted to look up all the characters there, but we have Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Who is Captain Hook.
Captain Hook
is the piano player.
Playing the piano, which is that's jokes on jokes happening here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We have the Headless Horseman.
Yes.
There, who has some funny interactions. Does anyone else remember any other?
There's Larry King is the ugly stepsister.
Yeah, he's the ugly stepsister.
Is that Larry King?
It is Larry King. Interestingly enough, Larry King and Joan Rivers, their characters are swapped out with British voices, British TV people, when it was Expert.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But their likenesses remained.
Yeah. Huh. That's funny.
But there's only one person.
There's only one important person here at the Poisoned Apple.
It's the only kind of person that could kill an ogre, and it's our buddy, the best character in this movie
history.
in movie history, Puss in Boots.
Oh, he's so good.
Wonderfully played by Antonio Banderas. Like,
essentially playing Zorro again, which is even better. Like, I was on board immediately. It's like, oh, he's Zorro again. This is great.
Yeah. You can't cast that any better.
No,
you cannot. It's impossible.
It's perfection. It's so good. They gave him his own movie.
It's so good that he got nominated for some acting awards.
Yeah.
For this movie.
This movie, yes.
So he's if you don't know, Puss in Boots is a Zorro cat, basically, as Jeff had mentioned.
Or like a musketeer cat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of more like a musketeer cat. Sure. That makes sense. And Banderas, didn't he play in the Three Musketeers as well? A muscat?
A muscat?
A Moscato?
Sure, I'll go with it.
Musketeer?
No.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no. No, we got it. Thanks, Donkey.
The kids will love that.
No, I don't think he ever played a musketeer, but he certainly was Zorro in one of my favorite movies of the 90s, hands down.
Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
So good.
God, I love that.
Listen to our episode about Mask for Zorro. Jeff and I fawn over it.
Yep. It got my dad to listen to it or to watch it, and he also really liked it and liked it a lot. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are the best victories with this. Like, if you can have someone listen to an episode and decide, hey, I want to watch that movie, or find us because they watched a movie and want to hear other people talk about it. That to me is awesome. So King Harold, the drama king, makes up with Shrek by saying, hey, buddy, let's bury the hatchet and go hunting together tomorrow morning. But what in reality he's done is hired Puss in Boots to meet Shrek in the deep, deep woods and kill him.
Literally the deep, deep woods.
Yes, I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah,
the deep, deep woods.
It's like we went to the deep, deep woods where Well, and by the way, kids, if anybody ever invites you to go snipe hunting, say no. Yeah, because that's what this is.
Also, they've kept the character hidden, right?
Yes.
You don't know that it's a cat at this point.
He's
right?
just eyes. He's just
right.
eyes.
Yeah,
eyes and boots.
Because the reveal is everything here.
Go for it, Jason. Explain the reveal.
Well, I just love when you see that the assassin is this cute, adorable orange cat, right? And then he introduces him. He says his name, and I love. He says, "I am Puss," and then it zooms in to his feet and boots.
And his attacks are every person's nightmare of a crazy cat.
But he gets delayed because he has a hairball.
Yes, he starts to walk forward, then he leans over.
And horks up.
Sorry, hairball.
Yeah, so he basically just begins clawing at Shrek everywhere, gets under his shirt, and then pops out of the front like Alien.
Yeah.
Love it.
Fantastic. And then at one point even goes down his pants, and I think Donkey tries to hit him, and of course racks Shrek. But eventually, actually, I think the hairball happens after this initial attack because he flips back to his boots and his sword, and that's when he has the hairball, and then that's when Shrek basically just picks him up. It's like, look, this is what was, it's like, this is who we're fighting against, and then of course he puts on the eyes.
Yes, he puts on the eyes, and he's also at this point, because Shrek has saved him and he underestimated him, has said, I will give one of my 9 lives for you. I will protect you, right? I will.
And he's also
I will make good on this.
That Shrek is not that bad of a guy,
Right.
And all of it is like, hey, wait a minute, you're not so bad.
But then we have Donkey, who's like, we only have room for one talking, one annoying talking animal around here.
But instantly, Shrek walks off with Puss in Boots on his shoulder. He's purring and rubbing up against him and everything. And Shrek is just totally won over by this itty bitty cat.
And it's great because it's adorable. It took what would have been a stale relationship in this film and threw a wrench into it, right? Shrek 2 would not have been a successful movie if it was just another Donkey and Shrek adventure. There wasn't enough there.
Right. But the Donkey and Puss in Boots end up becoming the Falcon and Winter Soldier of Civil War.
You can always find a reference for the Avengers.
I can't.
That or Crisis on Infinite Earth.
It's one or the other. Or Star Trek.
Or Star Trek.
But
I'm waiting for the Lynchian thing to happen in this too. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're the sidekicks of they have the common person that they're sidekicking, and they have animosity towards each other, but they end up becoming best pals by the end of it.
Yes, because they both realize that their intentions are to restore Shrek's relationship with Fiona,
right,
and to help him re-find his love, who he's semi-lost throughout this process upcoming, right?
Exactly.
But Shrek is always in love with Fiona, but under the impression that he needs to do more to make her happy. Right? There is no real strife in their relationship. It's all made up by the situation around them. But now Shrek knows that King Harold hired Puss in Boots to kill him, and now they need to do something about it. They need to figure it out. So what did they do next? I think this is when they sneak into the fairy godmother's castle, which is really funny. They pretend they're
union guys
investigating possible wrongdoing to the employees there.
Right. And of course everybody has something to complain about in a factory job, right? So they're able to get past the guy at the front desk by just like, so have you been mistreated at all?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh well, let me tell you. And so, but when Shrek puts on the little guys, because they're almost Oompa Loompas working at this factory, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So when Shrek,
maybe not even a little bit, a lot,
right? But when Shrek puts on the one little guy's like whole outfit and it just covers his head, and he's walking around,
ears and the hands,
and the hands are just like flopping around. It's killing me.
Yeah, it's great.
And he's like, "Oh, hardly or working hard or hardly working," and everybody's looking at him like, "Who's?"
It's hilarious because like Shrek wouldn't know these terms, but it's just the things that dumb people say to each other, right? It's offices.
Exactly. It's standard small talk. It's like, it's like saying, it's like, oh, that's some weather we're having, huh? It's like,
yeah.
When you don't know where to start, you start with that.
Yep. So yeah, Shrek is I guess successful at fooling these Oompa Loompa guards or workers, and he ends up in the potion room.
Right.
And he's trying to find a potion that will solidify his relationship with Fiona.
Well,
right?
It would also make him beautiful too, because he thinks that she wants to be the princess, not an ogre, and therefore he has to change for her, because she mentioned that she has changed a lot for him, which is actually technically true. I mean, she is not what she once was. She has changed. So she's not asking him to make huge changes, but he doesn't know that. He thinks, oh, I need to become beautiful so that she doesn't feel like she had to give up stuff for me.
Right. And they send Puss in Boots climb up to the top of the rack.
Right.
And he cuts the hole with his finger, like Mission Impossible style.
Yeah. And it licks his paw and then sticks it to pull the cut glass away.
Yep. And all this time, Donkey is supposed to be watching to make sure they don't get caught. But Donkey isn't paying attention. He's still, at this point, kind of annoyed with the Puss in Boots involvement in this, and he doesn't realize that they've realized they're there. So Puss has to pull real hard to get that bottle out. They have a magnificent catch to save it, and then they have to run out of that building. They do some pretty funny stuff in that room.
They pour all of this big giant potion that turns everything into like turns doves. All the guards into doves, and of course the doves later have to report to Fairy Godmother what happened, which is hilarious too.
And then she tells them to clean up, so they're all flying around trying to clean this giant mess they have no business being able to clean.
Right.
But at this point, Shrek decides he's going to drink this potion, and Donkey is trying to talk him out of it. He's like, you don't want to do this. We don't know. We should know more about this before you do it.
Which is smart.
Yes, very smart. But Shrek is single-minded at this point.
Yep.
He's like, I need to be what Fiona wants me to be. He drinks it. Donkey offers to drink some to make sure it isn't poison first, or whatever. There's not something wrong with it. They both end up drinking it and fall asleep in a barn because it's raining.
Yeah, they both pass out kind of suddenly once they get to the barn because of the rain. And then Fiona, who decides to go looking for Shrek and so that they can go back to the swamp, she ends up passing out at the door of the castle.
Yeah, at the same time she passes out, right?
Because it does say in the small print that your true love will also be affected by this potion.
Yep. And at the same time, Fairy Godmother has discovered what they've taken and says, we can use that against them, right? We can use this potion to make everything work properly. So in the morning or whenever they wake up, Shrek is turned in. There's 3 girls fawning over him.
Just 3 girls in this barn. Sure.
Yeah, they just show up and they're like, "Oh my God, there's this handsome man," because Shrek is. Yeah, he's a hunk.
Yeah,
and the third one,
Dr. Steve Brule would be like, "It's a hunk."
This scene is funny.
Yeah,
I laughed my ass off at this scene.
Talk about it.
I lost my donkey.
Yeah, talk about it, Jason.
No, I just think it's funny, like the reaction of the women and Shrek is kind of getting comfortable with this. He doesn't even really know what he looks like yet, and this is all very uncomfortable for him. It's just funny.
Well,
yeah, and the third one is really inappropriate with what she says.
It's
hilarious.
So basically, he's like, "Oh no, we got to get out." Well, the first one of them is like cradling Puss in Boots too, which is really funny. And so like Donkey is turned into like this magnificent white steed.
Yes.
And he realizes that he's human now. So Shrek is like, "Oh no, I got to go and find my true love." And she's and the 3 girls are like, one of them was like, "I'll be your true," or I'll or something like, "I'll be your true love." The other one says, "Oh no, me." And then the third one says, "I'll be true." What does she say exactly?
Enough or
true enough.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like rolling her eye, like kind of like bashfully, like looking away, like, "Yeah, no, that's not. You don't go for that one, guys." So, but anyway, they take off. But of course, Shrek has like, his old dumpy, clothes. So they have to get new clothes that will fit the way he looks. So they find some.
Well, there's the joke there too, where it's like you gotta change your clothes, and all the women are like, "Ooh."
Right, exactly. Yes. So they end up creating a like an accident on the road where they find this foppish guy, who has like the powdered wig and everything, and makes it seem like they hit Donkey. And so they're able to use that to to ambush this guy. And Shrek puts on the clothes and the wig, and of course the clothes is too short. The wig looks stupid, and of course Donkey and Puss laugh at him over it. But then the guy's son, who's much bigger, comes out, and they decide to take his clothes, and they ride off to far, far away. And so. But what Shrek says is like, "Oh, thank you for the clothes. I'll return them or pay you back for them if I don't forget." And then just leaves. And they're like just in there like in their underwears.
Yes, it's funny. So they arrive right back in far, far away Hollywood. And Shrek runs in to find Fiona, and Fiona runs out of her room to find Shrek.
Yes.
Shrek gets to the room, and the fairy godmother is there and basically traps him in that room so he can't leave. He's like, "I have to get to Fiona," and she's like, "Well, no. If you love her, you'll let her. Yeah, if you love her, you'll let her go." Basically, is the
she tells him there. She tells him that because her son poses as Shrek. And she's like,
that's where I was going next.
Yeah, it looks like she's already found her true love.
And don't they see that she's like given Fiona the potion to turn her back into a human also? Does that happen now? And they get captured.
Shortly,
because Shrek took the potion, Fiona is changed back. But then there's a potion later to make sure.
Oh yeah. I got you. Yep.
Yes.
So many potions. My goodness.
Yes.
Hey, it's a fairy tale, man. There's all sorts of potions all over the place.
But yes, so Fairy Godmother has used this opportunity to trap Shrek and have Fiona run into Prince Charming, who is pretending very terribly to be Shrek. They're trying to fool her into thinking that this is what happened to Shrek when he took the happily ever after potion.
Right.
Trying to think of the very next scene.
Well, the next thing that happens is that, so Shrek and Puss and Donkey go back to the poisoned apple. And now Hook is singing Nick Cave.
Yep.
And they overhear basically all of the dealings because they see the king come in his like shroud and everything. And they go outside and they listen in through a window where they hear about the potion that the king has to give to Fiona so that if Prince Charming kisses her, she'll love him forever.
Yes, and the king is not real keen on this plan. He starts to show a little backbone here. Yeah. He's backing out of the deal, but he's also showing a little backbone. Like, I can't do this to my daughter, but the fairy godmother,
Well, she's powerful. She's
powerful. She gets her way, right? Yeah. She gets him to take the potion.
Yeah, at least she thinks she got her way. Yeah.
Right. Well, as it turns out, yeah. But but she sees that Shrek and Donkey and Puss are all there. So this leads into a chase in which now we get a cops.
Yeah. This is the knights. Yeah, the cops.
Right, knights. Yeah. And they and they find catnip on.
If ever there was a more like a 2000s reference that. Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be. Yeah,
right. Cops. But they find catnip on Puss in Boots, to which he's like, "That's not mine.
That's not mine."
And they throw him in jail. But meanwhile, because that's on TV, all of Shrek's pals back in the swamp realize that that's what's going on there.
That was my biggest laugh in the whole movie is when they're discussing like what to do. And they don't really know, and then they're watching Knights, and they see them on Knights, and their jaws drop. And the big bad wolf, and oh my god, it's just this blank stare, jaw drop at the TV screen. Right. Kills me.
And we have to mention that the pepper spray that is used on Knights is actual just throwing pepper into people's eyes.
It's a pepper grinder.
Yeah, it's a grinder. You grind it into their eyes. It's so funny.
So they get strung up. Now, meanwhile, we did miss my favorite sight gag of the whole thing. When Shrek first showed up, Fiona found out that Shrek took the happy ever after potion because she sees Donkey as the steed, and on the back of the steed is Puss in Boots licking himself, to which she thinks that's Shrek. So she says Shrek, and he turns with his leg still hiked and his tongue sticking out before he realizes that it's Princess Fiona. And it's like, for you, baby, I could be. It's so good that they use that as the as Antonio Banderas's little character card in the credits.
That's wonderful.
Both
That's funny. Yes, sorry we jogged past that one.
Oh no, that's all right. No, that's all right.
So Fast and Furious.
So now, by the way, I would love for a Shrek movie to do Fast and Furious.
Shrek and Shrekius.
Yeah, thanks for putting that in my head now.
Too Shrek, too Furious.
Too Shrek, too Donkey.
Shrekio Drift. I'm sorry. Oh.
Shrekio Drift.
Jason, there is a Fast and Furious movie this year.
Oh my God, there is.
We got to do it.
9? Is it 9?
It is 9. Fast 9.
Yeah, so back to Shrek 2.
Let's do that.
Fast and Furiously, I might add.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it. The fairy tale friends, which is the 3 blind mice, Pinocchio,
and the 3 little pigs.
3 little pigs, Hans, the gingerbread man.
He's important. He is.
Yes, he's very important.
Is involved in this too, right?
Yes. Yep. And why is the gingerbread man important, Jason? Because he knows somebody.
Well, he knows the Muffin Man, man. I mean, he knows. He doesn't just know the Muffin Man, but he knows that he lives on Drury Lane.
And what did they do with that information? Well, I guess first
they got to bust them out.
Bust Shrek out. Yeah,
Mission Impossible style. But
I do love Gingerbread Man's reaction when Shrek asks, "Wait, do you still know the Muffin Man?" He's like, "Well, sure." Get down on your
knees. He's such a happy little gingerbread man.
It's the best.
By the way, I love that his legs are stitched back on with the icing.
Yeah.
That's a great joke between the first and the second.
Between movies, yeah. Yep.
Yes, and he loves his buttons. His what are they?
Gumdrops.
The purple gumdrops on his chest. You don't want to mess with those.
By the way, those are probably licorice flavored gumdrops, and that's fantastic. I love it.
I wouldn't eat it.
I wouldn't eat it.
My favorite part of that rescue,
anise flavored in gumdrop.
Anise, yeah. My favorite part of that rescue, because the three blind mice kill me every time they're on the screen too, is when the one mice.
Great sight gag with one of the mice later, like right after they get freed. Go ahead,
yes.
Chuck, and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, do, because on the top of the grate, before they go in, he lights a match to try to show some light in the pit that they're in, and he just falls in because he's blind.
Right, and then Pinocchio goes down, but he gets all wrapped up in his own strings. So the gingerbread man's like, "Oh, forget this, I'll go down," and so he goes down, but he has to get the key over to Shrek to undo his shackles. Well, to do that, they have to make Pinocchio lie, but he doesn't have anything he wants to lie about right now. So what he ends up lying about, though, is the type of underwear he wears.
So funny.
Which turns out to be ladies' thong underwear. And
it's a thong.
Which gives it enough of, and it's like, no, it's not. And so, which gives him enough of the length for the gingerbread man to run across and unshackle everybody. Well,
yes.
But then when they all jump down, there's still the one blowing mouse just wandering around like aimlessly.
Yes, it's hilarious. Every time I see them, I laughed at them.
It's just such a little detail that they continued to play with from that one mouse falling in. That's perfect. And of course, the first thing that Puss does is go to eat it.
Yes. Somebody stops him. I can't remember who. But then we get
I think it's Shrek that stops him. It's like, "Puss, we don't have time for that."
Yeah, we don't have time for
and he pulls it out of his mouth, yeah.
But then they go to meet the Muffin Man on Drury Lane.
And
who does he cook up? One of my favorite characters in the movie, and my kids love him, especially Brinley.
Oh, well, it's Mongo.
It's Mongo. Yeah. I mean, Mongo is my favorite thing in this movie. Why did they call him Mongo?
Just I don't know. A big dumb gingerbread man.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of derpy, right? But it's like
it could be a Blazing Saddles reference.
It might have been. It might
be.
But he's just a dumb Stay Puft Marshmallow Man sized gingerbread man, and he's like, "Oh." He's just like dumbfounded by everything, but it makes him so happy. So they ride on the shoulder of Mungo into Far, Far Away,
right, and to the castle to stop the whole kiss and everything. Plus, if Shrek and Fiona want to stay pretty, they have to kiss before midnight, to which Shrek did mention, "Why is it always midnight with these things?" And it's like, that's true. Why is it always midnight with these things?
Yes. So on top of that, her father, King Harry, gave her tea, which should have had the other potion in it that would make Fiona fall in love with the first person who kissed her, which is supposed to be Prince Charming, still pretending to be Shrek. And they basically, it's just a break-in it's a break-in scene with Mungo attacking the castle walls, his gumdrop getting shot and burning up.
The gingerbread man was very upset about that.
They're not the. I can't even say it without laughing. Not the gumdrop. but the gumdrop. Go ahead.
No, and then like he gets hit, and Mungo is like, oh.
But he gets angry now, and he kicks the flaming gumdrop into the castle wall.
Right.
Getting rid of those pesky people. Go ahead.
Yes, and then he starts pulling down the drawbridge, but he gets but they put hot. It's hot cappuccino basically on them, right? Or like steamed milk.
The foam from the drink. Yeah.
I thought it was milk. Well, yeah,
I think it is. I think they just make up a bunch of steamed milk and pour it on, so it breaks off his arms. And like Shrek has to like, dive in, and then he lowers the drawbridge. But then Mongo lands in the moat, and Gingerbread Man's like, "Oh no!" And Mongo's like, "Be good."
My kids have a theory that Mongo's just still there.
Yeah.
In the water.
Apparently he is. He's still singing. I mean, he's singing Ricky Martin at the end. So
But during the time his arms are broken off, Shrek is able to jump in through the crack that had been made. He climbs up Mungo's broken arm and into the castle, lets down the gate, and he and Donkey, who's still a steed, ride into the castle to stop.
But it's real important.
And
Puss in Boots is there too.
Yes,
because now this is his chance to repay the favor, because all the guards come, and he's like, "No, you keep going. I have my duty," and so he puts on the eyes to disarm the guards, and then he just destroys them.
Yes. Yes. He's like, "Now I repay my debt," and he just basically and just beats the ever living crap out of him.
Yep. Just yeah. And so Shrek gets in, and then of course now it's everybody comes in to do like basically a game of keep away with the fairy godmother's wand. Because that's really her real power. So basically disarm her so that they can, so he can get Princess Fiona. And then, but that, at one point, Pinocchio gets hit. And as he's flying through the air, he goes, "I'm a real boy."
Yeah, because even funnier than that is when he's on the stage dancing and he gets accidentally hit again. Or I think this time it might be on purpose, and he gets turned back into Pinocchio, and he's like, "Oh." But we have this game of keep away, and eventually, so we find out
this gets
Prince Charming,
here, kids.
Yeah, Prince Charming kisses Fiona.
Yeah, because they find out that she has drank the tea.
Yes.
So kiss her now before it's too late.
Yes, she drank the tea, but King Harry switched it.
Yes.
He actually drank the potion.
Well, that gives
unless he threw it out or whatever.
To kick Prince Charming right in the junk.
Right in the jangles?
Right in the Bojangles.
Yep. So he kisses her. Nothing really happens. The fairy godmother gets livid and goes to like, well, I just got to destroy Shrek, basically. That's what's got to happen here. She goes to shoot him to turn him back into an ogre, but King Harry jumps in front of it and basically disappears. Right? And everyone's crowded over him. And one of my favorite lines in the movie, and I can't even remember who says it. It might be Pinocchio. Says, "He croaked." because it's a double joke.
It's a double joke. Yes.
Yes. In reality, he's still in there. He's been turned back into a toad, which is probably what he was, the Frog Prince, and he was beholden to the fairy godmother for this reason. If he wanted to remain human, he had to do her bidding, is basically right That's the tie-up on that bow.
I think that's the tie. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we find out that the queen doesn't care that he's a toad. She still loves him. She, maybe more than ever or whatever. Shrek and Fiona kiss or decide not to kiss.
Right, because the chimes start happening and Donkey's like, yo, hey man, remember you got, it's like, it's time. And he's like, whoa, yeah, that's right. Do you want to stay like this? And, and she says something like, that makes it seem like that she does. So he goes in for a kiss and she kind of holds him off. And she's like, no, I've already married I'm already happy. I like what we were.
I want you to be what I fell in love with.
Yes.
Not this other thing.
Yes.
Which is, I guess the lesson of this movie is don't pretend to be somebody else. Right.
Right.
Because everyone almost in this entire movie is pretending to be someone else at one point or another.
Yes, because even the fairy godmother is thought of as kind of like a Willy Wonka. We had said that her workers were kind of like Oompa Loompas. Well, she's kind of a merry maker, but not really. She's kind of a bitter old lady, right?
Yeah, she has a devious intentions, but kind of a soft front. I guess with her, whatever her company is called, a single tier or whatever. If you cry on the card, she appears to help you.
Her billboard made it look like a gentleman's club.
I can see that
because even Shrek responds to it's like, oh, we're not in the swamp anymore, and it's like, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So having forgotten that she's not that. She's actually a very important part of this movie. But anyway, yeah.
So Jeff, you'd mentioned a creepy line that Donkey says about the dragon, or maybe Jason did.
No, not a creepy line. One of my favorite lines. So they have this. I think Shrek may have been the beginning of the whole thing that kids movies do nowadays, which is in the movie with a musical number, like it's a music video, right? And so they do they do their Livin' La Vida Loca business, which is fine. That's fine. I know that I don't personally like that song, but if Puss in Boots and Donkey wants to sing that song, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to tap my toes a little bit. It's fine.
I get the song choice 1000%, but it is easily the worst song.
Oh, sure.
In the movie.
But again, it's an easy non-offensive song for a kids movie, right?
Yeah, it's for the kids, right? They can dance and sing it, and
absolutely, and it's completely and totally inoffensive. So but anyway, so that ends. We get a little bit of our credits, and then there's a mid-credit scene where Puss in Boots is about to go off with a couple of ladies. And he's like, hey, you want to party with us? And Donkey's all bummed out because he had mentioned that Dragon hadn't been around because she's been real moody lately. And he decided that maybe it was best that they had some time apart. Well, he's all bummed out because Dragon's not there. Everybody got what they wanted. He didn't get what he wanted. Well, Dragon shows up and it reveals why she was a little moody. Was because they have babies now, and they're like
donkey dragons.
They're donkey dragons. To which he says, "Look at all our mutant babies." And then he realizes he needs to get a job.
Yes. This would have been, in my opinion, the perfect wrap up to the Shrek saga.
Sure, but when you make almost $1 billion, you're going to make a third.
Yeah, it's hard to turn down more money, right? Like the movie, they were making a movie about Hollywood, and this franchise is like a victim of that, right?
Sure.
After this point, at least, even my kids don't like Shrek 3. I don't think very many people do. I don't think it was a very big success.
I think the reason why I know I've seen Shrek 3 is because I feel like it was like a family outing with like maybe my younger nephew or my niece, like taking them to, and like a bunch of us went. And then I remember being disappointed because I think Puss in Boots isn't in as much of it. If I remember correctly.
I think so.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so not bringing up any feelings going into this movie, unless you want to. What did you think, Jason, of the 2 Shrek films?
I mean, yeah, they're fun. They're fun movies. I like them.
All right, that's it.
I mean, you have to, for me, I guess. I mean, they are absolutely super charming. You know, I mean,
yeah, they're that perfect kids movie that the parents are going to be happy to watch alongside their kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it made $1 billion, right?
It was easy for the parents to take them back to see.
Right. There's something for everyone. It's not like a chore. Pixar does this too, but with more about the thematic, the adult themes, right? That are more, I guess, not adult in a way that they're inappropriate for children, but just they're more mature, right?
They're deeper.
They're deeper, right? They're more introspective. There's a certain wisdom to them that you could only attain through age, right? But they're broken down and boiled into, I mean, like fairy tales in a lot of ways, into a way that a child can distill them and understand them. So they work on levels. But these movies are just it's sort of the lowbrow kids movie, right? It's got a really good message, and then just a lot of really funny jokes that anyone can enjoy.
Yes. It's like those, I don't know, there were thousands of movies I watched as a kid that I will watch now and I'd be like, oh, I never got that joke because I wasn't supposed to. And Shrek is really good at that too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, your kids are probably perfect examples of that, right? Where they've seen this movie since they were little, and every time they watch it, they're a little older and they understand something a little bit more, right?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yep. Braden says he hasn't seen as many movies as you guys have seen, but he says that Shrek 2 is the best sequel he's seen.
That's also perfectly fair. That is a perfectly fair assessment.
I like Shrek 2 better than Shrek 1. Susan liked Shrek 1 better than Shrek 2.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. That is surprising because it's one of those sequels that really wrap up everything that you might be wondering about in the first film, right? It closes the loop on literally all those outstanding questions. That's something that Braden brought up. He said, like, I know that The Dark Knight is a better movie, but this is a better sequel.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We've talked about a lot of really good sequels on this show. I mean, we've talked about Star Trek 2. We've talked about Superman 2. We've talked about Empire Strikes Back. We've talked about, I mean, a couple of other sequels that often get talked about as being better than their first. We haven't talked about Terminator 2 yet, although I feel like that's probably coming later this year since it is 30 years old now.
We haven't talked about Aliens.
Say what?
We haven't talked about Aliens.
We haven't talked about Aliens. We haven't talked about Spider-Man 2. We haven't talked about X2. All of those are perfectly in the running to say, when it comes to true sequels, are they better than their first? Yeah, but it also comes down to a certain extent of a couple of other things, taste and perspective, right? Like, Chuck, you don't care much for the X-Men movies, right? The first 2.
Yeah, I'm a bit with those. I actually did like the first and second movie when they came out. I revisited them later and didn't like them as much. But I also, not to get too deep in the weeds because we talked about this, I love Bryan Singer, like his movies in the beginning, and to lose another director to superhero movies, which is more and more like happening, right?
Sure.
The like good directors move on to, and now they're making good ones like Thor Ragnarok, for example. That's a director I like that went on to do a good superhero movie that had a lot of heart and fun and the stuff I like about that director. But losing Singer to the X-Men franchise was kind of tough for me, I guess.
I thought you were going to say that. Losing Singer to being another Predator, but yeah.
Right. That's why I said his movies.
Right.
I'm not talking about Singer as a person. I'm talking about his movie.
Yeah, and I less care about that now, if that makes sense.
Yes, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm talking about my original feelings about the whole thing.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, like, no, it comes down to a matter of perspective and opinion, right? Like, growing up when we grew up, for example, like, you know, the sequels that we have to look at are like Temple of Doom, which I think is far inferior to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's not even really a sequel.
It's not, but I mean, it's a prequel technically, but but it's a second movie to where you don't have to worry about introducing characters the same way, you know?
Right.
You know, but like Empire Strikes Back and Terminator 2, it's like we can point to and say, oh, that one's a good example of a sequel, or that one's a better sequel, or that one. I mean, to me, I think Star Trek 2 is the best sequel, only because Empire Strikes Back is part of a saga. It's a middle chapter more so than a sequel. But also there's character growth. And I think that's exactly what I'm seeing from Braden talking about Shrek and Shrek 2. He grew up with Shrek. I get it. I grew up with the Star Trek movies. So it makes perfect sense that he thinks that.
Oh, I think it makes perfect sense too. Certainly. And I think the only two that I think that meet his criteria of what a perfect sequel should be, in my mind, are Terminator 2 and Aliens.
Sure.
Because they are true, they answer the questions that the previous movie left open, right?
Yeah, sure.
But they also answer them in a way that's satisfactory and in some ways asks more questions, right?
Sure.
It's interesting because we can get into Matrix talks and all that, because if you're going to have a good sequel, and forget it, a sequel won't get produced if the first movie isn't good, but the first movie needs to be good.
Yeah.
And the second movie is built on the back of that movie. And if it's great, that's great. But then you have The Matrix, where they built twice greatly, and then they ruined everything behind the first two films and the third, at least for me.
No, like, I didn't like the second Matrix as much as the first, but then again, I'm not a huge Matrix fan. I like them, but that third one did not have a foundation it could build anything on.
No, they blew it. They blew it.
Yeah, it's like they tore apart. Like they tore out some load-bearing, walls in the.
Well, here's what it is.
Yes.
They answered all the questions unsatisfactorily, right?
That too, yeah.
So that's the danger you tread when you make a sequel. It's like, am I going to give people more of what they like that is going to keep them satisfied? That's going to are the things that you want to know more about in your mind more interesting than what I'm going to give you? And that's what happened with The Matrix. Yeah.
Yes, The Matrix and Lost, the TV series, like so many examples of that particular thing, where the writers have obviously backed themselves into a corner and they don't know how to get out of it, so they make something up, it feels like, a lot of times.
Or they try to make something that is purposefully runs against what people are wanting or expecting, right? They're almost like, oh, we can't do this ending because there's this forum that's already predicted that, and it's a popular theory, so now we got to do something else, even though maybe that would have been the better ending, right? And if you tell that story in a creative and unique way, but they get scared too, right?
Yeah. That's annoying too, because if you're telling a good story and people are coming up with good theories, is because you're being consistent with the information you're giving them.
Yeah.
Right. And then you turn that on its head.
Oh no, I was just going to say.
And then it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it fits anymore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and so to kind of go back to what Braden was saying, and to tie back in what you guys were just saying, I mean, here's the thing. you could have essentially imagined that a second Shrek movie could have played out exactly like this, right? You could have kind of come up with that, or as a kid, if you're not really sure how to, come up with these kind of ideas, that's why these are kids movies, right? That's why they're family movies, that they're meant to be more cross-generational happiness. So the point is that this is a good, Braden talking about answering questions and while still maybe asking a few other ones that maybe don't need as much of an answer. The point that I always like to try to tell people when they start to get a little bit too frustrated with the direction of a story, or it's like, well, you can always have your head canon, right? Like whatever you come up with in your head, that's yours. You can have it. You can, like, if you don't like these new Star Trek or these new Star Wars movies, or if you don't like Shrek the Third, come up with your own story. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know what the characters look like. You know what they can do. Just have your own story and be happy with that. You don't have to, you don't have to love anything that's given to you. You just do your thing.
Jeez, Pete, Shrek the Third made
$800 million.
$800 million.
Holy moly!
The fourth one made $750 million.
That is insane. That's crazy.
You can see why they have not yet put a cap on whether or not they are done with Shrek movies or not.
Right? I mean,
that's $4 or $5 billion, right? Between all the movies, it sounds, or maybe 3 or 4.
It's about $3 billion, yeah. But I mean, like they've already got a Puss in Boots coming out next year or the year after.
Do they really?
Yeah, they've got a fifth Shrek movie coming out at some point. Yeah.
Wait, how much did the Puss in Boots movie make?
I don't know that one.
I'm going to look it up right now.
While you're looking it up.
It made $555 million.
And that didn't even have Shrek in it. It's just the world. It's just in the world of Shrek. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and DreamWorks isn't a thing anymore, right? Like.
Have they dissolved?
Or no, I think, well, because the fourth Shrek movie was distributed by Paramount, even though DreamWorks made it. Did DreamWorks and Paramount maybe merge or something?
They probably, maybe. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, do your research, kids.
Yeah, do your homework. Do your homework.
So,
clean your room.
our lesson that we derived from the Shrek movies is do your homework.
Do your homework.
Braden and Brindley, thank you for suggesting Shrek 2. Aside from being able to watch movies with my kids, which doesn't always happen in my house. I wish it happened a lot more. So to get these kind of suggestions that I also enjoyed and give me time with them, I think that's invaluable. Yeah. So thank you, kids. And thank you guys for letting us do this.
Well, and here's the other thing that I find really great about this too, is that you are able, with your kids, having the opportunity to watch a movie like this, talk about it with them, and then then the three of us can talk about it and maybe say some things that your kids can also understand too. It's neat. It's a neat thing. And I was glad that we did it.
Yeah. They will both be listening to this episode. They haven't listened to any other episodes, mostly because I'm not sure if they should on a lot of them.
I mean,
I'll take the blame for that.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not anything we say necessarily. I don't know. But
now they're gonna be like, "Ooh, I want to listen to all."
Yeah, it's like, oh, what are these Friday the 13th movies?
Another thing I want to.
We were their age.
Right. Another thing I want to mention, because I hope they listen to this. And it's a little sad, but it's also a little sweet. And I think at the very least, Jeff, I mentioned it to you. Maybe I mentioned it to both of you. Is that the thing we're doing here with Film Seizure gives me the opportunity to leave something I can interact with my children on. I'm going to actually cry, I think. I am. Jesus. When I'm not around anymore.
Yeah.
They'll be able to listen to these and,
Yeah, no, I mean
go.
No, that's exactly right.
It's like a legacy, right?
that is
definitely yeah, that's kind of a wild thing to think about. I mean, there's that movie, this is a weird thing to go to, but there's that movie Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, right? And it's all about that. It's about like people who are terminally ill, who are leaving thoughts and advice and all of these things that they're not going to be able to impart on their children, right? Because they're going to go too soon, so that they have it with them as they age. And I think that in and of itself is a beautiful idea, but this is something that's even more organic than that.
Yeah.
That is truly a nice and touching way to think about the yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jason and I didn't start this show with the thought in mind that it's like, oh, we have to make our mark. We have to live forever through this, dump truck of a show that we have here, but at the same time, that is going to happen. I mean, at some point, I assume somehow, some way, that there's a very good possibility that people who are younger than us may listen to this show and they learn some other people that they've never met before, their perspective on things, and and that or they find my blog. I mean, that's going to live on in one form or another forever.
And what's going to actually happen is all of our episodes are going to somehow be erased, except for Hamburger, the movie, and Raw Force. Sorry, Chuck, but
I'm no longer.
Those are the only two that are going to make it, and we will still become legends.
I had a second point, and I think I won't start crying this time. Is that the way that we talk about movies forces us, in a lot of cases, to impart our wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Like the topics that we talk about force us to.
But yes.
You know what I mean? We've talked about some pretty heavy topics.
I'm maybe 50-50 on that, but yeah.
We're definitely 50-50 on whether we're serious or not. Maybe less so serious most of the time. Sure. But there are some gems out there where we've gotten some real, I think, wisdom out into the world. Or at least.
And we get feedback too. And sometimes, and I will admit that, and this is something else that I've thought about over the last, I don't know, few months or so. I think every single one of us have said something that on this show, particularly Jason and I probably have. I can think of a couple of examples specifically that we probably wish we hadn't said.
Yeah, certainly.
But we've also been doing the show for years now, right? And so, yeah, we say some things that maybe aren't great to say. Nobody should say what we say anyway. I mean, but let what we say inform you, not just who we were, but in the time that we existed or in the time that we were watching this. Or think about like in those movies that we do talk very nostalgically about. Think about like, you're experiencing things the same way that we did. Maybe they're different movies, but they're, you're experiencing things the same way. Times change. Sometimes you say things you don't mean. Sometimes you say things that are not great. Sometimes you just flat out make a mistake, and that's okay. People should know you better than that. And hopefully that even when Jason and I, and I don't think, Chuck, you've said anything that you probably would take back, but people should know us better just by listening to other episodes. If they've done that we're not bad people. We just, and sometimes things there will be certain things that we think today was fine to say that in 5 years or 10 years from now maybe isn't so nice, there isn't so right to say. But that's okay. We don't know what we don't know, and we do the best we can to express ourselves in the way that we know how, while still trying to be respectable.
What Jeff is saying is that our 100, 200 fans who don't care about thorough research, he's saying to them, don't cancel us.
Exactly.
Yes, and one other thing will always remain true, which is do your homework.
Yes.
Do your homework, kids, because otherwise you turn out like us. What do we think? Do we think we can close this book?
This fairy tale, close this fairy tale chapter.
Because I have to pee.
All right. Well, I'm going to go into the.
That seems like an appropriate Shrek joke. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Fair enough. It is.
You're in trouble for saying that.
Yeah, I'm in a big mud bath, and I've just been lighting up farts the whole time. What did Donkey say in the first one? Oh, you can't just crack them off like that and not warn anybody. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Right in his face. I tasted it.
Yeah.
Got my mouth open.
So Wednesdays, that's when you can listen to new episodes where we sometimes do more homework than we have or more research than we did, and sometimes we say things better than we mean to. But anyway, that's on Wednesdays. Next week is a suggestion from Chuck's wife, which I think
my wife.
It's not Borat, though. I wish it was Borat now. But anyway, Chuck's wife said, hey, you guys should talk about Goodfellas. And so we are. So we're going to go from Shrek 2 to Goodfellas. So kids maybe don't come back next week, but adults, parents, come back next week. In the meantime, you can also on Mondays catch my show Monster Mondays, where I talk about a monster movie and find 3 things I like about it. This week, Twins of Evil, which there's jokes all over you can put in that title.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
It's a good movie. So yeah, both of those shows.
Trilogy, correct?
Yes, I'm finally completing it. So yeah, both of those shows can be found filmseizure.com. Wednesdays, Film Seizure. Monday, Monster Mondays. And you can find Film Seizure not by just going to the website or following us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also find us in places like SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and Audible. You can also follow us on YouTube, where we also upload these episodes. No pictures or no videos of us, because that just wouldn't be good. But it would be, if that's how you like to listen to things and just have it on while you are cruising around your various other YouTube channels or doing your work, then you can find us there. And also on Fridays, you can go over to my website, bmovieanima.com. I have a fantastic movie that I think Jason wishes we had done instead of the one that we did. This Friday is Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Finally getting back to the Andy Sedaris classics.
Nice.
And Jason's trying to say something, but he is muted.
That was the movie I thought we were doing when we did
Malibu Express.
Malibu Express.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, well. You can read the article if you want. Yeah, live in La Vida Loca, Jason.
Live in La Vida Loca.
So with B Movie Anima, you can find that not just at that website, bmovieanima.com, but also on Facebook and Twitter. You can also subscribe to the B Movie Anima YouTube page, where you can catch up on B Movie Anima, the series, before season 2 starts this September. Should be pretty exciting times. All right, so Shrek 2, fantastic movie. We are batting 1,000 here with our suggestions this month. And we already know that we're going to complete the month on a high.
Oh, yeah.
With one of the best movies made in the last 40 years. So until next week, I am Little Lord Fartleroy, Jeff Arbuckle.
What?
Oh, Farquad. I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.